Michelle Violy Harper, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about, what I've done in my life and in my career. We're in my office right now, and this is Violy and Company. It's an investment banking firm. I was born in Barranquilla, Colombia, which is a really vibrant coastal town in South America, very close to Cartagena, which is a port city and really beautiful places to grow up. So I had a wonderful upbringing there. And then I simultaneously grew up in New York, in Manhattan. Something that's been interesting about my career is that it's always been very diverse. I'm never one person to have one interest and be on one path. So, there are so many different aspects of philanthropy that I love, causes that I'm devoted to, art, architecture, fashion. Food is a major, major interest of mine. The women in my family, except for my mom, were all chefs. I did chef's training. I studied in Europe. I lived in Europe. I've lived in New York. And I've worked in publishing. I've styled for a minute. I've worked at the Museum of Modern Art. So I've worn many different hats, which I think, people can see as jack of all trades, master of none. But I do feel that we live in a very different world today, and people understand more and more that you can gather information from many different sources in order to do a better job at whatever it is that you're doing. And, banking is an art. It's an art form. It's like cooking. It's like painting. In order to do really amazing, complex deals or build new companies, in areas that don't exist, you have to be creative. So I don't feel that those things at all are in conflict, but rather they work together. I love kids. I'm obsessed with kids. There are photos of kids everywhere. I'm one of 15 cousins. I feel like I had a hand in raising all of them. And the thing that really breaks my heart is to think of a child suffering. It makes me go ballistic. So this is an example of something that we do every year with the firm. We go to the most impoverished school in the New York tri-state area, and we basically bring them Christmas because they have no Christmas at home. This entire book is thank you notes from the school. One of my earliest memories of a conscious, imaginative experience was looking around at the people in the street in New York and imagining that they all had heart-shaped heads that were upside down. And I remember leaning over to my mom and saying to her, I leaned over and I said, "Mom, isn't it amazing that all the people in New York have heart-shaped upside-down heads?" And my mom sort of looked at me and she said, instead of saying something like, "What are you talking about?" or "I don't understand," she said, "Will you draw it for me so that I can see?" And I said, "Of course." And I ended up drawing for her what it was that I was seeing. And she never said that's not possible or isn't true. And I still have the drawings. And it's one of my earliest memories. And it reminds me that you can see in people, or I could see in people anything that I wanted or needed to. So it's one of my first memories. I did always feel like an outsider. Never at home with my family, but I remember going to school. I always felt like an insider-outsider. That's what my mom and I called it, an insider-outsider. Because even though I was in school and I had friends, I never felt like I quite fit in. And I think part of that was also being Colombian, speaking Spanish at home. I was in a French school when I was in elementary school. And so then I would have to switch gears to speak French, and the culture of the school was so different. New York was so different from Colombia. So, I've always had different sides to my life that have made me feel like I'm inside, but outside at the same time. My family. I have pictures of my family all over the office. I'm really close to my family and the kids. There are letters from my little sister when she was in camp, which I love looking at. So this is, one of my favorite quotes from my wall of quotes. It's by Carl Sandburg, and it says, "I'm an idealist. I don't know where I'm going, but I'm on my way." It works incredibly well, moving, the pace of New York that's so fast. I love it. I love to move fast, but then there comes a point where I'm just exhausted and I need to recharge my batteries, and that's when I go to the farm. We have our family farm in Vermont, in the Champlain Valley, surrounded by the mountains. Beautiful. We have cows, sheep, goats, ducks, honeybees. We have the Harper honeybees. And just, returning to that kind of simplicity. There aren't TVs everywhere and gadgets, and there are no cabs and no screaming people, and just being able to go horseback riding, being able to pick blueberries, being able to steep lavender. All these kind of earthy, simple things are part of what keep me sane and keep me able to keep moving at this rapid pace in New York. I think hair, makeup, clothing, all of it, it's playtime, it's theater. Japan is an incredible culture in which to see that, where it's been taken to a really extreme degree. I'm not a performer, but I think in some ways I like to use fashion as a means of provoking people and things and ideas, and it's a game. And it's a fun one as well. Some people paint, some people act, some people sing. This is one of the ways that I sometimes push people's buttons.